Um, Maybe a YouTube thumbnail. Let's see, create a multi-generational image of a family on a cruise ship. Let's see, what do we get? Sure, I can do this. I will use my imagination and creativity. Please wait for a moment. Ah, there we go. We got it. Okay. Their face is kind of messed up. That is almost scary. Okay. Anyway, let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Clint. Welcome to This is the Cruise, where we look at future cruise itineraries and try to find out if this is the cruise for you. Today we're going to be looking at multi-generational cruises. Cruises where grandparents, adult children, and grandkids all cruise together on a family vacation. I have done a number of these kinds of cruises with my parents and my kids, and they are just wonderful memories. And I had a friend reach out and say, this is what we're thinking of doing. What would you recommend? And I thought, that's such a great idea for a video, so I'm going to put something together. The reality is, though, that any cruise could be a multi-generational cruise if we think about it, right? I mean, you can take your kids anywhere and you can take your parents anywhere. I mean, maybe you shouldn't take either of those groups of people anywhere, but you could. Most cruise lines allow for kids and allow for grandparents. So, what makes a cruise really work well for multi-generational cruises? Well, budget is really one of them. And obviously, let's just set aside that there are cruise lines that don't allow kids. Virgin cruise lines immediately removed from this list. Some Viking cruises you can't bring kids on. So we understand that, right? So that's a given that you can bring anyone on the ship with you. But I also thought that budget would be really important because I remember when we were just getting started out, we still cruise on a budget, but some grandparents are retired and on fixed incomes. Some of the adult children maybe are doing really well. Maybe the grandparents have retired and doing really well. And, so you have these different budget levels that really need to accommodate what people can spend and still really enjoy their cruise experience. So for this exercise, I set a budget of $1,000 a person. And that really was setting $1,000 a person kind of all in. It needed to be 7 days. I mean, if we're going to spend, $2,000 plus for a family to go on a vacation, we wanted it to be a good value there and long enough. I also wanted to make sure that the ship itself had a really solid variety of activity types for their different cruising styles. If you or someone of your family wants to be able to relax, we don't want a party atmosphere that spills out into every aspect, every part of the ship. We also wanted it to have some energetic places and a lot of activities for those that just wanted to get out and do things, right, when the ship is sailing or even when the ship's at port. So we want a good variety on the ship itself. Also, one of the things that kind of helped narrow this down for me was thinking about it as a last chance vacation for the summer before school starts. Maybe your kids are about to go to kindergarten for the first time and you want a memorable vacation before they start. Or maybe they're about to go off to college and you want to do something really special with them. So this would be a great opportunity. So that kind of narrowed it down. We're going to do it in August. And because it's future itineraries, we're going to do it August of 2024. Most cruises, many cruises are cruising Alaska or the Mediterranean, and those can really creep up in price. So we're going to focus on the Caribbean. And that really helped kind of narrow things down. And finally, this is a channel about cruise itineraries. I wanted to make sure that we had a really solid cruise itinerary here. So we started to dig in, and I started to dig in and take a look and see what we could come up with. All right. So before we get to those, just remember, really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. You don't have to, of course. I'm going to do these videos, whether you like them, whether you subscribe. I love doing them. I love looking into these things. But I'm really amazed at how much that like and how much that subscribe helps me out. So if you got a second, click those couple of buttons. I'd really appreciate it. And it helps me out. Okay. So there was a few things that didn't make the cut, right? Anything that was only doing 3 stops. It's a 7-day cruise, and I wanted a 2-to-1 port to sea day ratio. So that really eliminated most of the Carnival cruises. One of the cruises I went on with my kids and my parents, one of them was a 4-day, and one was a 5-day, and both of those had 3 stops, still had that 2-to-1 ratio, but that just kind of eliminated Carnival. And for the most part, I really didn't see much there. And I also removed MSC. They did have, MSC Cruises does have one decent itinerary. It's August 31st, which really means you're cruising in September. So I pulled that one out. Also, I don't think MSC is great for first-time cruisers. And the reason is they're very polarizing. If you love them, you love them. If you don't like them, you don't like them. I've cruised them before, and I'm kind of we didn't really have a great experience. That was quite a while ago though, so we're willing to give them another try. But we have cruised a lot, and we know how to sort of set our expectations. If you don't cruise a lot, it's hard for me to recommend them because you don't really know what you're going to get there, and there could be a lot of crowds, but they do have some great prices that are very tempting, right? It is a challenge. Let me know in the comments below if you've cruised MSC. If you've only cruised MSC, please let me know in the comments below. Did you like them? Did you not like them? And do you think they would be good for families, for multi-generational families, right? Are the grandparents going to be okay with the crowds? I'm pretty confident that there's enough stuff to do for kids. Right. I also removed premium cruise lines from the discussion. Celebrity Princess, Holland America, and even Disney. Yes, Disney is great for multi-generational families cruising. We know that. They're also super expensive. And really the itineraries, most of the stuff they're doing is in Alaska anyway. They didn't make the cut. If you wanted to kind of go the premium route, Princess is probably going to be your best bet when it comes to the budget. And Celebrity is going to be the best bet overall if budget really isn't an issue. That's just my personal opinion on that. Okay, let's get into these itineraries here. The first one that we're going to look at is the Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas. At the time I made this video, interior cabins were going for $650, and kids, if they're the third and fourth person, I think that's kind of the caveat. If they're third and fourth person in the cabin, are free. So that's a really good deal, right? We're talking less than $2,000 for a family of 4 to go on a 7-day vacation. This one leaves on August 11th. So right in our criteria here. It leaves out of Fort Lauderdale, which is great. Goes to Perfect Day at Coco Cay. I refuse to rhyme that. Perfect Day at Coco Cay. Then it cruises for a day. Then it hits Labadee, which is in Haiti, which is okay because you actually can't go into Haiti. You're just going to be in their little private sort of section that Royal Caribbean runs and manages. I've actually been to all of these places. Perfect Day at Coco Cay, cruise for a day. Then we're going to go to Labadee, Haiti. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Then you're going to Falmouth, Jamaica, which isn't the best stop. There's things to do in Jamaica. As far as is it family friendly, I don't know. But there's going to be things that you could book through the cruise ship that would be safe and fun to do for the family. Then there's Grand Cayman, which I think is a great family stop. And then you're going to cruise back to Fort Lauderdale. So to recap, leave Fort Lauderdale, go to Perfect Day at Coco Cay, cruise for a day, go to Labadee, then go to Falmouth, Jamaica, then Grand Cayman, then cruise, and then back to Fort Lauderdale. This is 4 countries, with a 2-to-1 port to sea day ratio. That's really solid. For variety, because it's 4 distinct countries, gets a score of 4, repeatability a score of 3, for a total of 7. Not really a bad itinerary. Adventure, 3.75. I'm giving this one an enrichment on the low side of 1.25, and relaxation a 3.5. So there's a decent variety here, pretty weak on the enrichment score though. So let's see if we can do a little bit better than that. So itinerary number 2 here is on the Norwegian breakaway, and you have a couple of options. If you leave August 4th, it's $850. If you leave on August 11th, again at the time of the video, it's $900. That pushes us over our $1,000 price point, so I'm really looking at that earlier one to stay under. But again, kids travel free. It is $200 more per person, $400 for a couple. But let's take a look at this itinerary and see if it's worth it. So we're going to leave out of Miami. Miami departures are fine for families, but we've done it. Yeah, we've done it. Even when our kids were pretty young. We're going to get into the departure point here in a second, kind of compare Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Then you're going to be at sea. So we're going to leave from Miami, then we're going to be at sea, then we're going to go to Puerto Plata, Dominican, then we're going to cruise on to one of my favorite stops, which is St. Thomas, which is a great place for families. Then we're going to go to Tortola. You talk about banger stops here, but just such good stops back to back in such a great part of the world. And then you're going to be at sea. You're going to go to Great Stirrup Cay, which actually you can see in the distance. Coco Cay, where people are apparently having a perfect day because they're right next to each other. Great Stirrup Cay is Norwegian Cruise Line's private island. It's nice. It's a beach resort style island. It's less of an amusement park like Royal Caribbean. And then we're going to cruise back to Miami. All right, so let's take a look at this itinerary and give it a rating. For variety, again, 4 countries, 2-to-1 ratio here for stops to sea days. That's great. So variety gets a 4. Repeatability, 3.5. These stops are much more, or well, not much. These stops are more repeatable than the previous itinerary from Royal Caribbean. So this gets a 7.5 for a total. For our total, our adventure score, 3.5. Enrichment 2.25, it's up a little bit, and relaxation 3.25. So is it worth the price difference? Well, let's dig in a little bit more and see if we can maybe come up with maybe help you make a decision here. So let's look at the ships, right? Maybe, we all know Royal Caribbean has these massive ships that they've been releasing. Well, this isn't one of them. However, this is what I'd call their kind of middle large ship. I've been on this class of ship, though I've not been on the Freedom. I've been on the Liberty of the Seas. They're the same size ship. And I was very concerned, a ship that big with that many people, is it going to feel like it's super crowded? And honestly, it doesn't. It's really, the ship itself is so large that you have so much more space per person. I was very, very impressed with that. And I got to give them credit. I mean, Royal Caribbean makes some incredible ships. However, the older the ships get, the more tired they tend to be if they haven't been refreshed. So we have the Breakaway and the Freedom. You can see the Freedom's a little bit larger, a little longer. The Norwegian has one more deck. The decks don't really matter because it depends on, they don't all start on 1. The Norwegian has a little bit more crew, so you have a little bit more passenger to crew ratio, which is a little bit better, right? A little more crew to passenger ratio rather. But then you can see that the Royal Caribbean ship is a slightly bigger, so more space per passenger. It's amazing to me how similar really these ships are. Norwegian built their ship in 2013 and the Freedom was built in 2006. They've both been refreshed twice and were last refreshed in 2020. It almost comes down to the age of the kids. I think both cruises are going to be excellent cruises for multi-generational families, both of them. If your kids are on the younger side, meaning less than 8, between, under 10, but definitely younger, less than 8, toddlers, certainly babies, but toddlers, 4, 5, 6, I think the Royal Caribbean Freedom is the choice. It wins on price. It wins on departure port. leaving from Fort Lauderdale with young children is so much easier than leaving from Miami with young children, because the airport is there. You fly in and it's right next to the cruise port. You hop in an Uber for $15 and you're there. I mean, it's great. You put your kids in the booster seat, the car seat, or whatever, and just go. You don't have to finagle buses and funky transportation and crazy airports and all of that. Like Fort Lauderdale Airport's so easy to get in, so easy to get over the cruise port. It's one of my favorite cruise ports to cruise out of because of the convenience. However, if your kids are a little bit older, Miami's a really cool city to visit, and the Norwegian itinerary is significantly better. With St. Thomas and Tortola, those two stops are, I think, worth the difference. And you have so much more opportunity to do things that are more enriching with your kids than the other stops, where essentially the Royal Caribbean stops, you are just spending time on the beach. In Labadee, you're going to be spending time on the beach. In Perfect Day, aside from the rides and things that cost extra, you're going to be spending time on the beach. Now you can go snorkeling on the beach, but you're going to be spending time on the beach. Jamaica, you're going to book something through the cruise ship or you're staying on the ship, which means having that nice refurbished Freedom of the Seas big ship essentially to yourself is pretty great. Jamaica, you don't want to venture off on your own, and your kids have to be with you anyway. And you're not going to take your young kids anywhere to just adventure, to explore the city. If you have older kids, book something through the cruise ship, go whitewater rafting or go visit waterfalls through the cruise ship, okay? Just because it'll be safer. Oftentimes we book things on our own. We went whitewater rafting in Jamaica. We were in our early 20s, we were in our mid 20s. We did not have our kids with us. And looking back on that trip, it was sketchy getting there. We got to the whitewater rafting area, like the start, and the guides that were going to be guiding our rafts down the rapids were drinking Red Stripe or Guinness and smoking, but not smoking cigarettes. They were smoking. And we were kind of young and naive and hopped in the boats and had a great time. But I'm not bringing my teens. I'm not bringing my young kids. So book through the cruise ship in Jamaica and you'll be fine. Royal Caribbean, Freedom of the Seas if you have young children. But if your kids are 10, pushing 10, more on the mature side, spring for the Norwegian breakaway. I think it'd be worth it. I think the memories are going to be worth it. And before I show you what the AI tried to do for us, which I'll show you here in a second, I want to tell you a quick story about one of those priceless memories that we had. So we're cruising with my kids that are under 10, and they were kind of at that super energetic age. And we were on a Carnival cruise, and we did, at that time in particular, we would get a lot of family photos taken on the ship. It was about the only time where we could get our kids to settle down and get their pictures taken. We have very nice family photos from our cruises. Well, at one point it was me, my mom, and my wife, and we're, getting a nice family picture taken. My kids decide to photobomb. And the photographers loved it. They snapped the pictures when my kids are jumping in, and we had that photo to kind of cherish. Well, my mom just loved it so much, her grandkids jumping in, that she started photobombing us anytime she could sneak in. And sometimes she would get in, sometimes we knew it was coming. But the times when she would get in and we had no idea, and we'd get home and start looking through the pictures, those memories, they connect the dots from when our kids were little to now as, older adults, being able to travel with my parents and with my kids who are becoming adults. Just those memories are priceless. So anyway, let's take a look here at what AI did. For a family, this looks, I can't really tell if this is multi-generational or not. That little boy on the left is really struggling with his hair. I don't know what's going on with the mouth or the eyes here, but whew. Everybody's smiling. They're enjoying their cruise here on this one. Do their hands connect? Whose hands belong to which people? So, anyway, I don't think AI is quite there yet, and I'm not sure if I should use any of these thumbnails. But, wow. Okay. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. AI was not really able to come up with an itinerary for us. I think I've still got my job, which is great. And we'll see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Smash that bell button. You know, all the things we need you to do. Talk to you next time.